Yes, you can build the business you want, impact your community, and bring revenue into your business. You just need the right strategies, support, and focus. Now, I don't have to tell you that surrounding yourself with a group of like-minded and success-minded people is only going to move your business forward. And that's what you get inside my Thrive membership. Inside, you get access to weekly live Q&A calls, industry-specific business training, accountability, and resources that will bring ease and give you back time. This group, part mentorship, part coaching, part mastermind, will keep you focused on what matters. So what does matter? Well, your business getting a steady stream of new clients and being able to seamlessly retain your existing clientele and building those systems that allow you to take time out of your business. Head to spring3.com/thrive to find out more and join an upcoming interest call with me. Now, here's this week's episode of the Pilates Business Podcast. As a business owner, a big part of what drives your success is not necessarily the strategies you use. Success is often down to mindset. And I've invited my friend and fellow business coach Miranda on today to talk about self-leadership and self-motivation. Today, we dive into connecting your purpose to a higher value, self-awareness, and the habits that will guide you forward and what self-leadership looks like inside of your business. Listen in and get ready to learn. I'm so excited to share this episode with you. Well, hi there, I'm Seran Glanfield. I'm a business and marketing strategist just for boutique fitness studio owners like you. If you're ready to be inspired and make a bigger impact, you're in the right place. All you need are a few key strategies, the right mindset, and some support along the way. Join me as I share the real-life insights that will help you grow a sustainable and profitable studio. This is the Pilates Business Podcast. Welcome back to the Pilates Business Podcast. I'm Seran, and I am thrilled that you're here with me today. And today I'm super excited because I am joined by the amazing Miranda VonFricken. She is a speaker, coach, and strategist. She actually specializes in LinkedIn networking, leadership, and branding. Now, I invited Miranda onto the podcast today because she has such an incredible background. She's a certified life coach. She actually earned her master's in motivation and professional development, and she studied the science of happiness at Yale. She's 2020's Women of Achievement Award recipient in the category of Women's Empowerment and is an incredibly positive force in her local and online communities. And I know that you guys are all going to love the conversation we're about to have. Welcome, Miranda.
Hello. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. I am thrilled. Now, I gave folks a little bit of insight into what you do right now, but your journey to get here has been winding like everyone's. There's always twists and turns along the way. So I would love if you could just give us a quick overview of kind of how your journey in the business world has brought you to where you are today.
Of course. Happy to. All right. So long story short, it was a spring day when I was born. No, I'm kidding. There's no short stories when you're dealing with me. Hilarious. All right. No, I'm kidding. All right. So, I graduated college with a bachelor's in communication thinking I would be a broadcast journalist. So my passion has always been being on stage and sharing stories, right? So when I entered the 9-to-5 world, because you can't just graduate college and become a celebrity, apparently that's not a thing. So I got a job and I started working in a college where I was a career director, helping adult students navigate LinkedIn, their resumes, figuring out how to interview. So I really enjoyed helping people find their professional fit, right, and align that to who they are as an individual. Within my time there, it took about 7 years or so, I was a career director. I was certified as a life coach. I earned my master's in motivation. I have been doing a lot more public speaking at other colleges, speaking in corporate America, talking to employees about professional development. And it's funny, it was early 2000, and I was never really an entrepreneur. I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. So for me, in my head, I had to keep my job, right? I needed the security. I needed to actually, I needed to have like benefits and stuff. But I didn't realize that entrepreneurship was really what my life was called to. So after a few layoffs in corporate America, after the education side of my job, I went into talent in HR. So talent development, leadership development, and I loved every second of it. But that's really where I got the bug for LinkedIn. It really like kind of consumed my skill set, was growing this company I worked for on LinkedIn. So my brand took off, personal brand, the company's professional brand took off. And again, speaking now, not only on the professional side of things, but how to brand yourself individually. In that space, it was as a 9-to-5er looking for your next opportunity. But for me, it was slowly moving me into the world of entrepreneurship and creating a personal brand for myself. And I loved it. So after 4 layoffs, and I will not give you all the juicy details, but they are emotional. After 4 layoffs, I finally said, all right, God, I hear you. Like, I'm not meant to be in this space. So I followed my calling and took my side hustle and made it a full-time experience for myself. And it's been I'd say about 3 years I've been doing this full-time. I have been doing it as a side hustle for about 10 years. So I have been coaching and strategizing and speaking for what feels like forever, but it's been only about 3 or 4 years I've been doing it full time, earning my own life as creating it as I go and earning financial freedom based on, the values I have for myself. So yeah, I'm a reformed 9-to-5er turned super excited entrepreneur.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. Well, it's fantastic that you're here. And you mentioned something. So I think something that I just picked up on was you mentioned about how you, even in the corporate world that you were in, that personal brand was still so important, right? And we often think of branding as being either a company thing or something that you do when you are a business. But the reality is that it doesn't matter whether you are a business owner, you are in someone else's business as well. You have a personal brand, right? Which we can choose to lean into and cultivate, right? And if we do, then you have more, I say probably more power to be able to drive where you want to go inside of as in your career and life. Is that
Absolutely? People buy, partner with, collaborate with people they know, like, and trust, right? So
right?
they don't know, like, and trust your widget that you sell, right? Like they
Mhm.
may know it because you're like, we're not branding like I've got this highlighter in my finger, but you can't tell it's in my hand. But like if I'm talking about this highlighter, cool, it's a cool highlighter. But if I tell you why I love this highlighter and why it works for me in my business and it's changed the trajectory of my life and my calling because of this highlighter, y'all buying this highlighter, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's just kind of how it works. So same with personal branding, whether you're an entrepreneur or have a big corporation or a 9-to-5er. Everybody should have a personal brand because eventually somebody else may hire you. Eventually you may get laid off like I did and need to find your next opportunity. Every next job that I got was because somebody knew me on LinkedIn and was like, oh my God, you're available? Holy crap. Like, can you do for us what you just did for that company? And I'm like, sure. So they were hiring me, buying into me, not because they needed to fill a role, but because they wanted what I had to offer.
And then when you become a business owner and you perhaps start your own business, oftentimes what I've seen, I'd love to hear your thoughts, is that brand, that the business that you start is really an extension of your personal brand oftentimes.
Yeah. Especially if you're a solopreneur or it's just like a small business, like a lot of your listeners are small business owners and it may be just them or maybe them and like a small team. But obviously people go to their businesses because they want what they have to offer, but there's probably a couple competitors in a 5-mile radius that they could go to. They're going to you because they know you, they like and trust you, they recognize your brand, and word of mouth is still a part of your personal brand, right? Your testimonials, the experiences somebody else has. So when people often say to me on LinkedIn, like, you do humble bragging so well. I'm like, I sure do, because I need people to know. I need you to know that like other people are getting success with me. And that's a part of my brand too, the celebration piece, not only for my clients, but for myself as well. And people want a part of that energy. Like it is a personal brand, but it's still an energy that you can sense and feel from a different woman, especially when it's a woman owned business, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to work with a robot. I want to work
No.
with a human who has the same ups and downs that I do, maybe has 18 kids. You know what I mean? Like I don't have 18 kids, but but if I feel like we have something in common, I'm more apt to work with you. And the
Right.
only way you'll know that is if I talk about my story and make it my brand.
100%. 100%. Now, so one of the challenges that I see is that we tend to, or studio owners that I work with and teachers tend to rely on non-personal brand reasons. So things like pricing, location, to sort of as a reason why perhaps their business isn't doing what they want it to do. Or they're not seeing the success that they want. And I'm a big, I work with a lot of my studio owners on developing their brand and their messaging and their brand promise and all of those things, because that is truly what helps studio owners to stand apart from others and to really, like you said, create that relationship with their community and with their clients. So why is it that we avoid leaning into our own brand as a distinguishing factor and rather just say, oh, it's because the price isn't right?
Well, it's a little insecurity, right? To be honest, right? So it could be part insecurity, part self-sabotage. Some of the things that we do in our own mind that kind of hold us back. It could be fear. Like people may not create a personal brand because they don't know, like, and trust themselves. I know that sounds crazy, and your people are probably like, "Who is this chick? I love myself." Right? Maybe you do, and you're awesome. But I find that some people have a hard time building that personal brand and attaching their lack of success to other more obvious tangible things, right? Personal brands take a while to build, and it takes consistency, and it does take confidence, right? I'm sure they know what they have to deliver is great, but they also may not have the skill set to create that personal brand. So that's why working with a coach or working with you, someone who's exactly what they need, because you do what they do and you've built a personal brand, right? So they know that if they're getting that expertise from someone else, they're learning it, then they'll have more confidence, right? So it really comes down to building that confidence in your story. And yeah, I totally get it, right? If you're charging $1 million a session, I'm probably not going to your studio, right? I just can't afford you. I get that. But maybe go find those millionaires who can afford you, because it's a very niche market. But like if you say the environment or the location isn't exactly where it needs to be, okay, so find a way to get a new location or make the current location more desirable. You can walk into a place, maybe not in the best neighborhood, but if you walk in and feel like you're in a castle because of the colors, the smells, the people who greet you at the front door, like people are coming. I don't care, like they're coming. So it doesn't have to be the most glamorous place. It probably just needs to be clean. It needs to smell good.
Yes, exactly.
And people need to walk out with success, feeling awesome.
Feeling awesome, which is about the experience, right? And it's over and over again. It's the experience that people come back for more and more and more in businesses, across the board, for sure. Okay, so you work a ton with folks who are making that transition between the corporate world into entrepreneurship, right? And there's a lot of that's a big transition. Having done it myself, it's very emotional.
Yes.
And there's a lot more uncertainty, which I think takes a lot of deep work to get comfortable with. And as an entrepreneur, we are responsible for our own success, right? We can't turn around and be like, well, my boss didn't tell me to do that, so, you're the boss. So I know that you have, like I mentioned earlier, you have studied motivation. And one of the things I know that you know a lot about is self-leadership. So tell me a little bit about what that means and what that looks like.
Yeah, so self-leadership is one of my favorite topics to speak on. I used to teach people how to lead teams, right? And I realized that you can't lead other people if you can't lead yourself, right? Like I feel like that's a prerequisite to actually hiring a people manager. And I remember one of the companies I worked for somebody got promoted into people leadership and they were like, all right, so who's training me now to be a manager? I've never done this before. And we're like, oh no, we just like threw them in the fire. And I was like, holy crap. Like just because you're a great individual contributor doesn't mean you necessarily can be a great manager or people leadership, right? So because of my background, I created a leadership program for these up and coming leaders, but it started with self leadership. So half the program was about them leading themselves. And it was so valuable because it's just like a light bulb kind of flicks on and you're like, oh my gosh, like, of course I can't lead others if I'm a mess, right? Or your confidence to lead isn't there. You may not be a mess, but there may be things that, you're not so confident with in yourself. So when I do self leadership programs or I speak or teach on it, I go from awareness to abundance, right? So it starts with self awareness. And we have what I call the inner and the outer self. And I focus the inner self. We do some work and talking on our personal values, some non-negotiables that we can attach to these values. We talk about what motivates you because not everybody's motivated by money, right? The carrot or the stick kind of situation. Some people are motivated by fear you're going to lose your job, or in business. Let's talk because our listeners here are business owners, right? So, if you are motivated by not losing your business, that may be what you need to focus on to get, your butt in gear to do that branding piece. But if you're more motivated to just change the lives of every woman who walks in the door, your branding and your message may be completely different than the other person we spoke about. So figuring out what motivates you really helps us to create that personal brand and lead yourself better and lead others if that is what you end up doing. We talk about blocks, right? Because what motivates us, there may also things that shut us down, right? There may be some things that really mess with us internally, and we need to work through them or learn how to go around them, right? So we'll talk a lot about those are just some of like that inner self work that I teach people.
I was going to ask you. So tell me, I want to learn a little bit more about what do you see holding people back? What are those blocks what are the sort of the most ones you see most often?
In entrepreneurship, I see a lot of blocks that have to do with, can I swear on this?
Yes.
It's just the S word. Okay. I just want to make sure like you're categorized as adult language. No, I'm kidding. Sometimes these are excuses. So I play this game with my clients called legit or bullshit. Is this a legit excuse / obstacle? Because then it's not really an excuse. It's an obstacle we have to find a resource for, right? Or is it a bullshit excuse, which has a lot to do with our mindset, something we've told ourselves, our limiting beliefs, something somebody else has told us. I mean, in entrepreneurship, somebody can say to you, why are you doing that? That's stupid. And the next thing you know, you're like in your head, oh, it's stupid. Why am I doing this? I shouldn't be doing this. I can't do this, right? So that a lot is like outside factors really influencing our inside motivation, and it becomes a block. And so sometimes self-sabotage takes over. I sometimes find women who are like, I could never set my goals to $1 million this year. And I'm like, why? They're like, I don't know. I've never seen $1 million before. And I'm like, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard on a show or something somewhere where there's like $1 million within like a 3-block radius from all of us, right? There's a bank, there's a rich person, like there's $1 million in my vortex. I'm gonna call that in right now. You know what I mean? So it's closer than we think.
It's closer than you think. Absolutely.
It's closer than you think. First you need to make the first 100,000 to get to the million, and there's little steps. But if you can't even see yourself making $1 million in business, how are you going to make $50,000? You know what I mean? Like so it's a lot of these mental blocks because we've never seen it before, but there's a lot of women around us making $1 million and we can't be them tomorrow, but we can be them in time. So it's a lot of excuses. I find a lot of mindset issues, but you know what? A lot of women try to go it alone. And I think that's probably the biggest problem, the biggest hurdle that I actually ran into years ago. I mean, I've been a side hustler, quote unquote, for 15 years. Well, the first 10. If I had a coach that said to me, why do you still have a day job? Like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Like, I was a life coach before life coaching was cool. Now, like, everybody's a life coach at this point, I was doing branding before it was called branding. Like, it probably was in corporate America, but, I was doing if somebody had said to me, like, this is hot, this is where you need to focus your energy, I probably would not be working out of my home office. I'd probably have a big building somewhere or from my jet. I'd be working from my private jet,
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So going it alone is one of the bigger problems too that I find.
Oh my goodness. Because you just end up spiraling.
Yeah. You waste a lot of money, as crazy as it sounds. And people may be like, yeah, right, you're crazy. Like, you waste a lot of money trying to go it alone because you'll buy things you don't need. You will invest in workshops that you don't use. Or I can't tell you how many programs I purchased that I'm like, I have on a post-it somewhere, like, take these programs. And I'm like, that's like $8,000 right there I just spent and never utilized. So I think just hire the person, right?
Yeah.
Hire the person, stick with the person. You hire them because you know, like, and trust them. You believe they can get you to wherever you're trying to go. Stick with them, trust them, lean on each other, and it'll just, you'll make more money in the long run. You'll save lots of money, right?
And I have to say, there's like an element of like shared responsibility as well, which is kind of nice, so yes, definitely find the people. So the inner blocks obviously are there, and that's something that it's an individual thing, right? Everybody is in a different place, starting from a different place, going to a different place. So they're going to have different blocks, different things that are going to hold them back. Okay. So what else once you kind of perhaps have awareness for some of those things, perhaps you work through some of those blocks. How do you kind of continue to then lead yourself and stay motivated? Because there is, like, we do see, it does sort of ebb and flow, there's going to be I certainly feel it. There are some weeks, some months, and I see it in my clients and my studio owners as well, which are some weeks are tougher than others for no reason that you can really put your finger on.
That's the devil. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
That's the devil at play. Now, those are the times you have to actually lean in harder. I know it sounds crazy. And I too, I have a master's in motivation. I am crazy. I eat Red Bull for breakfast or drink it. Like, I am like the peppiest person I know. But there are still times where I'm like, ugh, I can't even get off the couch right now and go post something motivational. But that's when you have to. It's kind of like working out, right? So working out, I'm usually hot or cold with this too. 1 minute I'm doing a Tough Mudder, the next minute I'm eating a bag of Oreos. So I'm very hot and cold when it comes to my physical health. It's the days I don't want to work out are the days I need it the most. And I feel the best after it's completed. So think about that in the sense of business. When people are like, I just wasn't feeling it last week. Well, guess what? Your bank account's not going to feel it for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So it's going to be twice as hard to kind of get back in the flow of things. And you're hurting that audience that you're kind of building by disappearing. So that's why it's so important to schedule out your days. So Mondays are typically my CEO day, where I'll plan out content for a while. So on those days.
But wait, Monday is also the day that you get up at?
Yeah, 4 a.m.
4 a.m. That's right.
Yes, I do run. Well, that's why I made it my CEO day, because I get up at 4 a.m. and I host a 4:30 and a 6 a.m. mastermind. And then I get my kid off to school and I come back, I work out. But from that point forward, the rest of the day is mine, to do whatever I need. And if the CEO day isn't what I need, it's actually a MEO day, which I may have to trademark that bad boy or something.
Oh, I like that. A lot.
I'm sure it's already out in the world somewhere. But if I need to just do nothing and watch television for 4 hours till my kid gets out of school, then I can, because I've prepared in previous CEO days to actually make it a little well-oiled machine where I can take some time off. So yeah, scheduling is obviously a huge part of that outside piece of self-leadership. The inside piece is probably bigger than all of it, because if you don't have that inner self-leadership, you can't maintain the motivation. You can't build that momentum. A lot of the times when people feel they're just you hear them say, I'm stuck, I'm just in a rut. I tell them to go back to basics, right? Go back to the foundation that you built for yourself as a human, not just as a business owner, but as a human. So I know when I'm feeling way off and I've been out of the flow for a while, my basic foundation is my faith. So I will spend half a day praying, meditating, stretching, talking to my higher self, talking to my vision board. Her name is V. I've named my vision board. But I find myself needing to go back to basics. It's kind of like if someone starts a diet, you're like, where do I even start? And it's like, drink some water. Go back to the basics and rebuild that foundation. It won't be a long time. It'll catch on quicker every time you have to do it. But that's the self-leadership, is knowing that you need to go back. That's the awareness of who you are and how you work and how to get yourself back on track, right? So that's awareness. And then the alignment part is a big piece too. So when we have that inner work that we're doing, we have to align it to the outer work, right? That outer leadership. And so that's about physical environment. Like, where are you working? What does your work environment look like? For me, it's this office that I'm in now. It doesn't motivate me. It doesn't make me want to work, or doesn't make me want to, watch YouTube all day. Who knows, right? I'll say to some people, if you are a road warrior and you're driving to a lot of places, what's your car look like? Is it a hot mess, right? Like, what's your environment, and what does that make you feel when you're in that environment? So that is the outward leadership. So lead what's outside of your body, right? Well, outside essentially of your mind and spirit. Habits, what we do day in and day out, that routine we set for ourselves, that's still a little inner leadership, but mostly outer, because it's action taking.
Yeah.
Our relationships, who are we surrounding ourselves with, right?
And
like,
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So aligning that inner to the outer is what really gets us to that consistency towards abundance.
Yeah. And so when you mention habits, what sorts of habits tend to be the ones that keep people on track?
It's connecting themselves to the bigger reason why they do what they do, right? So that habit could be meditation, right? That habit could be prayer. It's prayer for me. The habit that I always go to first if I'm in a funk, or even if I'm not, and I just know I need to, be consistent with the things that work for me, is prayer. Sometimes people need to work out, right, to get their frustrations out. So habit of moving your body or eating properly, so you're fueling yourself. It could be preparation. Like, I'm a huge AM routine person, but the PM routine may be more important than that morning routine, right? So what you do before your head hits the pillow is probably more important than what you do first thing in the morning, because for me, it's you're setting yourself up for that successful next day. So I lay out my workout clothes. I've got all my water set out and ready to go for the next day. Oh, the kids know what they're wearing. You know what I mean? Like, there's gas in the tank. I can't tell you how many mornings I'd get in the car and that gas light comes on and my whole day is shot.
Yes, I am with you. That sends me right off.
And I am habitually 10 minutes late for everything. And so in order for me to fix that habit or to help myself, I have to prepare the night before. And then when my head hits the pillow, I'm usually in prayer mode again, just being very grateful. So those habits are usually the foundational habits that will keep us moving forward. It's not always like, we brush our teeth. Of course, you got to brush your teeth, all that good stuff. Like, those are habits that are ingrained in us. If we can get the other habits ingrained in us, like gratitude and prayer, meditation, any new things that work for you, you don't have to just some people may say, like, I can't meditate. There's too many voices. And I was one of those people. And I'm like, I hear you. I got all the voices. I turned meditation with all the voices into a conversation between me and my higher self.
There we go. That works.
Yeah.
That works.
So now it's just one voice and we have a beautiful conversation. And she's usually like, girl, get up. Get to work.
Get up.
I'm like, no, girl, you work too hard. You need to rest.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of the self-leadership is really about knowing or taking the time to reflect upon what you know that you need to be able to be successful, and to know what it is, what success looks like for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We can't be successful if we don't know how to define it, right? And everybody defines it differently. Like, success for some people are working sun up to sundown, going hard all day, being exhausted. That's not success to me. That's burnout and exhaustion, and that's failure to me, right? But to somebody else listening, maybe like, if I close the shop and the sun's still out, that's no good. Everybody's different, right? So once you start with defining what success looks like for you, you can reverse engineer that and get to what the habit looks like to get you there.
Yes. Yeah. And it's being consistent with those habits, right? And the, like we said, the challenge is continuing to stay motivated to do those things, take those actions on a regular basis, whether that's daily or weekly or monthly. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen when you do things once. Often it's building a business of any sort, of any size, is about consistently taking action and moving forward, and taking action and moving forward. And it's not always going to be comfortable. So the more aware you can be of the way that you feel and what kind of areas that maybe get you kind of stuck, the more capable you are, I guess, to work around them or to move through them, depending.
Absolutely. Some people, I loved it when that woman came out, Mel Robbins, and said like motivation is bullshit. And I was like, what? I just earned a master's in motivation. Now you're telling me it's bullshit. But I get what she's saying, right? Like, you don't just wake up and be like, I'm motivated. Like, you have to work at being motivated. It actually takes the action to get you motivated. It's not the other way around. I'm not motivated to go to the gym, sweat, mess up my hair. No, thank you. But when I go there, sweat, mess up my hair, I'm motivated for everything else, right? I'm motivated by the feeling, that outcome that comes after a nice sweat session, right? Like, I don't even care about my hair by the end. I'm like, I just did 8,000 squats. I'm so badass, but I feel amazing. And that is motivating. So even when whatever you don't feel like doing, whether it is a workout or creating a business plan or creating a brand that you're like, I don't want to create a brand. I just want to do Pilates. Like, okay, but do you want to run a business or do you just want to teach that somebody else's business? Because sometimes we got to ask ourselves the hard questions, right? Like, what do we actually want? And it's so hard to say, well, the thing I just built isn't actually the thing I want anymore. And that's where you got to get real with yourself. Because I mean, this conversation can go in many directions, but sometimes I work with women and they're like, you know what? I actually don't like this. And I'm like, oh, girl, well, I'm not giving you a refund, but I'm like, well, let's get you to what you do like. And the next thing you know, we're getting her somewhere else. And the ultimate goal isn't just to have a lot of money in our pocket and have a successful business. The goal is to be happy.
Yes.
Right. Ultimately, to feel fulfilled.
To
love what you do. I mean, God put on our heart we're called for something. And if it's on your heart, it's there for a reason. You may just need a break from it. You may need to come at it from a different angle. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways to be successful. And sometimes it's, taking a break too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this was a really, really insightful conversation. I learned so much. Thank you so much for coming on, Miranda.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I would love if you could share really quickly where people can find more about you and what you do.
Of course. So I live on LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn, find me, Miranda VonFricken. I do have a website. It's under construction, but I have the old one still active. So you can still peek there, MirandaVonFricken.com. And then again, I'm on, all the other social sites too with my name.
Perfect. Fantastic. And I'm going to link to all of that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Miranda. I hope we get to chat again soon. And this was such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Did you love this episode and want more? Head to spring3.com and check out my free resources that will help you run a profitable and fulfilling studio business. And before you go, one last reminder. There is no one way to do what you do, only your way. So whatever it is that you want to do, create, or offer, you've got this. Thanks again for joining me today and have a wonderful rest of your day. My friend, clients come to me from all over the world, and they have two things in common. One, a desire to make an impact in their clients' lives, and two, an even bigger desire to share the gift of movement and well-being with their community. So what keeps them stuck? Well, often it's overwhelm. There's so much to do. Where do you start? Or mindset, which looks like that question of, can I really do this? Or it's time, which looks like thinking, I already have so much, how can I add more? Without guidance, support, and clarity, procrastination is like wearing shoes made of lead, which means making progress is near impossible. Joining Thrive is how you kickstart the momentum to make big steps forward in your business. Inside, I share all my knowledge about marketing and business building and show you how to apply it in a way that helps you help your clients and creates a stronger business than you had before. If you go to spring3.com/thrive, you can learn more about what the program looks like and join an upcoming interest call with me. I hope we get to chat soon.